You know, talking to people can actually be pretty exhausting. Now when I'm just talking to normal regular dudes, that's manageable. But don't even get me started when it comes to girls. Because in short, this is what I think of it. No girls allowed. But on a more serious note here, just talking to people in general can actually be pretty exhausting. And I'm not gonna lie, I consider myself one of the better speakers amongst just people in general. I built up this skill over talking to you guys on YouTube and just doing public speaking in general, having my mom put me into a bunch of different things. But when it comes to talking to people, I can find myself getting extremely nervous. And sometimes I'll find myself just standing there looking stupid, but take away that other person like this. It becomes instantly 1,000 times easier to speak up and just speak my mind. I can find myself speaking to myself for hours on end. If you saw me from an outside perspective, you would probably look at me and think I'm a little insane and a little stupid in the head, especially when my whiteboard now is genuinely over. I can spend actually hours sitting here on my own. And this is the first stage of just getting better communication in general, being able to talk to people and having better conversation. It's starting off with having conversations with yourself. Talking to yourself is a lot easier than talking to other people. And this is basically the bare minimum that a person should be able to do. And if you're not capable of doing this, I don't know what else to tell you besides just getting better. This is the easiest and the bare minimum, the minimum that a person should be able to do. When you're talking to other people, yeah, I get that, it can be difficult, but you're talking to yourself, there's no pressure, there's no judgments, it's you and you. And this is what I think led me to building the communication skills I have today. Because I've done a ton of talking to myself through YouTube. Every single time that I plan to record a video, I run through my script or I improv in my mind the general idea that I have to speak on for 30 minutes straight. And I get it to the point where I can say it to myself fluently and smoothly. I don't have any awkward cuts, awkward pauses, and my speaking is fluid. And that's the goal here. You want to practice a bunch of common questions, like interview questions that people are going to ask you. Because in reality, when you meet new people, when you're having conversations, their questions are very similar to interview questions. It's just hidden up behind it and there's not as much of an expectation. People are going to be asking, oh, who are you? Which is essentially when an interviewer asks you, tell me about yourself. And this is what I did when I was preparing for uni applications. I ran through hundreds of these, if not thousands, going through them every single time I was walking back home, and would spend 40 minutes going through 2 or 3 questions. I'd have so many trials that it got to a point where I had the answers drilled into my head and I can memorize them basically. And that's a very key part of conversations. If you're able to have these answers on lock so that you don't freeze up when people ask you about things in your life and things that you've done and experiences that you've had, it becomes a whole lot easier to speak. Because the problem I find that causes me to freeze up and a lot of other people to freeze up is that you don't know what to talk about, right? It's not an incapability of being able to speak or not, but it's more so not knowing what to talk about and not having the confidence to say that. But you build that initial confidence, you build that initial answer through speaking to yourself and running through interview questions. If you guys want interview questions, I'll literally put down a doc full of all of them that I did, or some of the YouTube ideas that I had where I did a ton of improv and just had the general idea talking on them for minutes on minutes. But now we gotta talk about the actual big goal here, which is talking to people. That's the end goal that we all wanna reach here. But to do that, you have to understand one thing. 99% of having confidence and being able to talk to people without having much social anxiety is your perception of what they think of you and what you expect yourself to look like. Because I think a lot of you go into every single conversation with too many expectations, expecting yourself to look like an absolute genius, but you kind of have to expect the worst from most of these conversations. I can vouch, or I think a lot of my friends can vouch for me here when I say I have very little social anxiety. I can just go out on the street, scream penis as loud as I can, and I won't really get embarrassed. I'll just laugh it off because this is a joke. And most people probably wouldn't do that because they have enough social anxiety and enough intelligence to not do that. But I'm dumb enough, and I have enough reason in my mind to know that I'm doing this knowing that I'm gonna look stupid. And that's how you have to enter a lot of your conversation. Getting comfortable with being stupid is the #1 thing. But the way you really get comfortable with looking stupid in front of other people is changing your priorities. Ever since I changed my priorities to being #1, God, #2, family, #3, content here, and #4, gym, things became a whole lot easier for me to just go out there and speak. Because people weren't exactly my #1 priority. I can't speak. Can't pronounce things properly. But I don't really care. Even if I mess up words, even if I jumble up things, I'm not gonna dwell on it. Because I understand that the perceptions of random strangers or people that I barely even know don't really matter in the long run. Yeah, okay, sure. I might miss out on a connection here and there, but who cares? I got the closest people around me that I really need, and that's all that really matters. That's all I care about. And I think that's what you gotta change about yourself. Look into yourself internally and ask, what do you prioritize? What do you really care about? Because if people and your perception of yourself end up being 1 or 2, that's a bad thing. That's a really bad thing. Find some things that you can really dedicate yourself to, that draw the focus away from people and instead to those things. Finding God, finding the gym, that's why I have the Arnold poster back there, is really the big thing that made life change for me, that made speaking change for me. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me here today. I hope you found something interesting or something valuable from this video. This sort of content I'm trying to do more of, having a little bit of a cinematic or just changing angles, making my videos or the visual part of it a little bit more interesting rather than just having stock B-roll, because I want to show or build some new skills, right? And this is my way of doing it. So let me know if you guys like this or not, or if it's something that could be improved on. Any feedback is appreciated. But besides that, that's pretty much it. So I do appreciate you for watching all the way through, but just stay consistent, stay disciplined, and keep on building that relationship with God. My shoulder is getting really sore from holding this phone up, but just give me a kiss. Mwah.